My mother and sister were hosting Grandpa's 90th birthday celebration. My husband leaned over and whispered, "Grab your bag. We are leaving. Pretend everything is normal." At first I thought he was overreacting until he locked the car doors and said, "Something is seriously wrong." 5 minutes later, I called the authorities. I had not seen most of these people for 5 years, some even longer. A few faces seemed completely unfamiliar. Someone handed me a plastic champagne flute. A child dashed past, brandishing a paper plate as if it were a steering wheel. Folding chairs stood around, paper lanterns swayed gently, and soft music played from a Bluetooth speaker. It had all the ingredients of a quiet outdoor party. Cheerful, but slightly uneasy. It should have been fine, and for roughly the first hour, it was. I lingered by the table of snacks, pretending to take an interest in grape skewers. My husband Robert stood next to me with a glass of white wine, observing the crowd with his usual polite but unreadable expression that says he wants to leave. Mom was thriving, embracing people, dabbing tears, and carefully reapplying her lipstick using a napkin. Dad sat by the grill, grumbling about the weather as if it had personally offended him. My sister Nicole was predictably nowhere near me. Her husband was laughing at something that no one else found amusing. Although it was Grandpa's home, it no longer felt like his place. He had built this house after his business succeeded. It was modest but spacious enough for gatherings. People murmured about how well Robert had established himself. They all resided there now: Mom, Dad, Nicole, and her spouse. I suppose there was enough space. We had flown in from London the previous day. I had been asking for years when we could visit, yet the response was always unclear. "It is not a good time. He is not feeling well. Maybe next year." Then this spring, Mom said, "If you truly want to see him, come for his birthday." So I accepted the invitation. I thought perhaps she was softening, that it meant something meaningful. The celebration was already lively when they brought Grandpa out in a wheelchair, his hair neatly combed, wearing a sweater vest I faintly recognized. Everyone applauded as if he had just walked a red carpet. I stood there frozen. He looked well, perhaps too well. His face was smooth, his eyes distant as if listening to a melody no one else could perceive. I waved. He did not wave back. I convinced myself it was simply old age. Mom leaned close and whispered, "He doesn't speak much anymore. It is difficult for him." I nodded, pretending I understood. She lifted her glass and began the toast with a trembling voice, just enough so it seemed about her instead. 90 years of wisdom, love, and generosity," she said. "He built our family. He gave us this life." Some guests sniffled quietly. A woman behind me muttered "beautiful" under her breath. Robert did not applaud. I noticed he was staring intently. I whispered softly, nudging him gently, "What is wrong?" He did not respond. He kept watching Grandpa, or the man in the chair, I suppose, as if I was memorizing every line on his face. "Robert," I repeated. Then he leaned closer. "Pack your bag. We are leaving. Pretend nothing has happened." I actually laughed. "You must be joking." He showed no smile. His eyes stayed fixed. "Pack your bag." "What do you mean?" "Smile. Go inside. Start packing now." I stared at him. "Robert, what is going on?" "We just arrived." He slowly turned his head, finally meeting my gaze. Something is very, very wrong. It was not about what he said. It was the calm in his voice, as if this truth was as certain as gravity. My hands went icy cold. I glanced back at Grandpa. He hadn't moved. His hands lay on the armrest like lifeless props. "Are you serious?" I asked. Robert said nothing. He was already heading toward the house. I followed him upstairs. I fumbled nervously with my overnight bag zipper. My heart pounded. My mouth felt parched. I kept thinking, if he is wrong, this will be so humiliating. But if he's right, we walked out the front door. Nobody stopped us. Nobody even glanced up. At the car, Robert opened the passenger door for me like a true gentleman from a spy movie. We both got in. He locked the doors. Then, gripping the steering wheel firmly, he said, "That is not your grandfather." Once I thought I imagined the difference, the way things unfolded between me and my sister. Perhaps I was just too sensitive, too dramatic, always looking for reasons to feel excluded. That is what I told myself for years, until the day Nicole turned 18 and everything changed. The house felt as if she were stepping onto the Titanic. She stood by the main entrance with her duffel bag and a full tuition scholarship in hand. Meanwhile, their mother was sobbing as if someone had passed away. "You do not have to leave," she repeated constantly. "We will figure it out. Please stay just a little longer." In contrast, 2 years prior, when I reached the age of 18, I was handed a suitcase alongside a simple nod. "It is time to mature," Dad declared. "You are an adult now. Go and create your life." There were no hugs, no tears, no offers to assist me with packing. I do not want to sound resentful. Honestly, I do not. I moved away, started college, and managed on my own. Yet, there is something about being shown the door politely, as if you were a visitor while your sister is begged to remain, that lingers deeply. The ironic part is that I never had a choice about going to college. I knew I had to leave, not because someone told me to, but because I needed a reason to escape. My parents did not contribute a penny financially. I doubt they even inquired about my field of study. It was my grandfather who quietly provided support. Every few months, he sent money, just enough to survive. Rent, groceries, unexpected emergencies. No fuss, no lectures, just a folded check with a note penned in his unsteady handwriting saying, "Hope this helps. Proud of you." He was there for me from the very beginning. Long before I could form complete sentences, there was Grandpa. He would pick me up and share stories in a voice that always seemed to carry hidden wisdom. He crafted wooden toys and patiently taught me how to use them. The handplane was still with me when I lived in Velcro sneakers. He carried the scent of cedar mixed with peppermint tea. Back then, it seemed as if he belonged to me, as if I was his favorite person. Maybe I truly was. Yet life has a way of pulling people apart. College transformed into a career. That career shifted into Robert, and just like that, we found ourselves residing in London. It wasn't a dramatic escape, but rather a combination of chance, work, timing, and perhaps, if I'm honest, a sense of relief. Being so far away made everything seem simpler. Simpler not to notice how infrequently my parents reached out. Simpler to convince myself that the silence was only due to the different time zones. Simpler not to feel the strange emptiness that consistently appeared after any talk with Nicole. No matter how cordial it seemed, our contact was limited. Holiday emails, an occasional Zoom call. The last meaningful conversation I had with Grandpa happened during one of those video chats. He appeared older but still sharp. He inquired about my work, and I asked about his garden. He joked about the squirrels stealing all his tomatoes. That was 3 years ago. After that, things gradually became quieter. I asked to speak with him, but Mom would say he was resting, unwell, or too tired. Eventually, she stopped responding entirely. I told myself it was normal. People grow older. They pull away. Maybe it was difficult for him to talk. But something about it never felt right. So I chose not to push. I had a life, a career, a husband. I reassured myself it wasn't personal, that I hadn't been cast aside but gently, kindly left behind. Then out of nowhere came the birthday invitation, or perhaps more accurately, the approval. "If you truly want to see him," Mom had said during the call, "come to his 90th. I did not hesitate. That very night, I reserved my flights. I thought it carried meaning. Maybe this was the turning point, the moment I was given access again. However, I arrived at a gathering filled with strangers, standing on unfamiliar grass, realizing this place had somehow ceased to be mine, if it had ever truly been. They all lived here now. Mom, Dad, Nicole, her husband, they had embraced the house as an organic part of their bond, their genuine family. I was merely a visitor, an outsider. I kept convincing myself it was all in my mind, that I was imagining things, being overly dramatic once more. But then Robert leaned closer and said, "Grab your bag." At that instant, nothing seemed imaginary anymore. We remained in the car as if we had just broken the law, or perhaps as if we had just fled from something sinister. I couldn't yet distinguish between the two. Robert gripped the steering wheel so tightly it seemed as if it might bite him. His knuckles were pale. I was still halfway through fastening my seatbelt, hoping that if I did not secure it completely, none of it would turn real. "What do you mean it is not him?" He did not look at me. "I mean, it is not your grandfather. What are you talking about?" "I am serious," he said calmly, though without kindness. "That man in the wheelchair is not him." I looked at him as if he had just proposed something absurd. "The cake contained uranium, you suppose? Someone wearing a disguise? Like a character from Scooby-Doo?" "Not a disguise. His ears are different." I blinked, fixating on his ears. Robert finally met my gaze. "You do not understand. I remember faces, every tiny detail, ever since I was little. I can draw someone I saw once at a train station in 2009. Faces and ears never leave my memory. That is not your grandfather." And suddenly, my stomach felt like it had turned to liquid. I wanted to laugh, but not the joyful kind. It was a disintegrating, high-pitched sound, like slipping off a cliff. I pressed my hand to my face. My mind tried to reason through it. But what else could it be? Who else could it possibly be? Robert glanced back towards the house. "Your uncle?" "What? Did you not say he resembled your grandfather when he was younger?" I did say so. I had noticed it. He did resemble him, but that was many years ago. Besides, my uncle was not really present, was he? He did not come to the party, did not utter a single word. Also, oh my God, I whispered. He was wearing glasses and had a beard, probably some makeup. Not overly dramatic, but just enough. And I am telling you, those ears were different. The shape was completely unlike it. Robert said, I know what I saw." I leaned my forehead against the window, my breath fogging the glass. My heart pounded fiercely, as if it could burst right through my ribs. I did not want to believe him. I wished to return to the time when this was just a strange party, and I was the unwelcome guest. The disappointment of a daughter, the outsider from out of town. That version of reality had felt so secure. Then where was he? Robert did not respond. Where was he? I felt the question wash over me like a fever breaking. Where was Grandpa? Suddenly, everything shifted. The uneasy toasts, the tears, the half-empty guest list, how no one let me get close to him. The silence from him, the way they dismissed me every time I tried. "I have not spoken to him in 3 years," I said aloud. Robert glanced at me. "What?" I swallowed. 3 years. The last time was over a video call. He looked exhausted. Then Mom said he was too ill to talk. Every time I called, it was he was resting or he had a tough night. I thought I was just being dramatic, but now I was not sure I had not been shouting into emptiness all this time. "Okay," Robert said. "I think you need to reach out to someone." I stared at him. "You mean the police?" He nodded once. "If we are wrong, we are not." I did not move. I held my breath. I pictured Mom's expression when I left. That tight smile that did not reach her eyes, the slight shaking of her head as if I had appeared uninvited into my own life. "I am going to ruin everything," I whispered. "Nicole," Robert said softly, "you are not the one who did that." I reached for my phone as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I made the call. The police arrived much faster than I expected. 2 officers in plain clothes, calm and quiet. They approached us beside the car. I shared what little I knew, trying to make it sound as rational as possible, which proved difficult. It may sound odd, but I am convinced someone is pretending to be my grandfather. I have no idea where he is, and I feel something is seriously wrong. Their questions were calm, deceptively simple, the kind that feel like traps even when they are not. After that, they nodded and walked toward the house as if delivering a package. I remained seated in the car, watching everything unfold. The gathering outside did not end immediately. There was no shouting, no frantic running. It was something far more unsettling. The atmosphere seemed to dim, as though reality itself had been turned down a few levels. People still held their glasses and smiled politely, but their eyes flicked around nervously, and their shoulders were tense. The officers began separating people for private talks. I saw one of them speak to Mom. Her expression changed as if she had just been told the wine was spoiled. She quickly became defensive, gesturing and shaking her head rapidly. Her words came in a rush, but her hands did not touch anyone, not even Dad. He stood aside, staring at the hedge, as if expecting it to provide some answers. I watched the officers speak quietly to the man in the wheelchair. He remained silent throughout. Then they must have requested identification. Mom went inside and returned with something, but it seemed to make no difference. The officers knelt once more, speaking softly with that professional calm, composed, and unreadable demeanor. One officer then stood and walked away, while the other stayed. Slowly, the man in the wheelchair looked up and said a few words, then nodded. It was far from over, not by a long shot. An officer returned to the car and asked, "Can you stay close?" "We will contact you shortly." I asked, "Is it him? Is it my grandfather?" They replied, "We are still verifying some details, but you know it is not him." There was no further response. "We will be in touch," they added before walking away. I remained seated, every moment weighing heavily on me, as if whispering, "Wait, where is he? Where is he gone?" That evening, my phone rang once more. I heard furious, anguished cries or screams, indistinguishable from each other. "How could you, Mom? You called the police on us, your own family. Do you think you're better because you moved away?" I tried to answer, but words failed me. "You don't understand. You weren't here. You didn't see what it was like. We did what was necessary for him, for all of us." I asked with a trembling voice, "What did you do?" "Where is he? Where is Grandpa?" They snapped back. "You don't get to ask that now, not after what you've done. Where is Grandpa?" There was silence, then a click as the line went dead. The next morning, when the police arrived at our hotel room, I felt sick, not simply out of fear, which was present, but because part of me still hoped Robert had lost control, misunderstood the situation, gotten carried away. A case of mistaken ears, mistaken identity, mistaken everything. But the officers did not come to arrest or interrogate us. Instead, they came to inform me that my grandfather had been dead for 3 years. They phrased it that way, naturally. They appeared calm and professional. One officer took the lead in conversation, while the other kept a watchful eye on me, as if fearing I might run away. A voluntary statement has been given. The family informs that Mr. Ellis died in March 2022. They insist it was due to natural causes. The body was buried privately. I sat down and then noticed I could no longer feel my legs or my fingers. We are treating this case as an ongoing investigation until the coroner can verify the details surrounding the death. The words felt like raindrops sliding off a locked car. Heard, but not absorbed. 3 years? 3 years had passed. Meanwhile, I kept sending birthday cards. I tried to schedule Zoom calls. I questioned if I had done something wrong. Maybe Grandpa was angry with me for moving away. Or perhaps he was simply exhausted, confused, or too ill to respond. No, he was truly gone. They never told me. They did not inform anyone. My memory is hazy regarding what I said to the officers. I think I inquired if he suffered. They replied that they did not know yet. I believe I asked if the man at the party was my uncle, and they nodded. I felt like screaming, hitting, or disappearing into a hole forever. Instead, I said, "Thank you," like a well-mannered girl, like a polite fool. The news began to leak online a few days afterward. At first it was mere whispers, Reddit posts, and a small local gossip blog. Then someone posted a video, grainy, unstable footage from a phone, showing the birthday toast, with my mother wiping her. The eyes of my grandfather, no, not him, merely pretending to pay attention as if everything were genuine. This man passed away 3 years ago. His family celebrated his 90th birthday. However, he was portrayed by someone else. The internet reacted as it always does. It first mocked us, then it speculated wildly, and finally it tore us apart. I stopped reading the comments after the first 20. People called me everything from an accomplice to a narcissist to an ungrateful child who should have allowed her family to grieve in peace. Opinions flew freely, as they always do. Then came the call from the lawyer. Not their lawyer, but his grandfather's. "Victoria, I have been trying to contact you for quite some time." I almost hung up. "Your grandfather left his entire estate to you, including the house, the business assets, the residual trust, absolutely everything." I looked down at the floor, fixating on the misguided grout line in the kitchen tiles that never quite matches. My throat tightened. I was speechless. "This was not a secret," he said softly. "He told your mother and your sister years ago." Suddenly, everything made sense. The lies, the secrecy, the staged parties, the man in the wheelchair. They weren't just hiding his death. They hid it from me because, if he was dead, the estate belonged to me. If I remained unaware, they could continue living in his home, spending his money, acting as if I did not exist. I called my mother, unsure of what I sought, perhaps answers. She answered on the second ring. "How dare you?" Her voice trembled with rage. Not grief, not guilt, fury. "You alerted the authorities on your own kin. You shamed us. You have no clue what you have caused." I attempted to talk. She refused to allow it. "You were absent. You cannot understand what it was like. You walked away. You abandoned this family, and now you swoop in, pretending to be some kind of savior." "Where is he?" I interrupted. Silence followed. "What occurred to him? What did you do with his remains?" "You do not have the right to ask that," she said chillingly. "You were not present. I questioned every year. I told you. You deceived us every time. We were guarding him, shielding you. He did not want a spectacle surrounding his passing. He sought tranquility." I chuckled, actually laughed. It sounded cracked and harsh, like something fractured under strain. "You did not protect him. You exploited him." That is when she ended the call. Weeks went by. The inquiry progressed slowly, but then gained momentum. There were testimonies, interrogations, court orders. Eventually, the coroner confirmed what my family had asserted. Natural causes. My grandfather had passed away peacefully in his sleep. No injury, no poisoning, no violence. Just the quiet conclusion of an elderly man. Tears flowed for the first time since the visit from the police, because at last, finally, I could grieve him without any uncertainty. Yet there remained the deceit, the impersonation, the financial wrongdoing. Charges were pressed for failure to report a death, withholding facts, unauthorized access to funds, and identity fraud. They did not receive prison sentences. Instead, probation was assigned. Conditional, supervised, and firmly enforced. If they slipped up again, they would be sent straight to jail. Jail. My uncle, the actor, confronted his own charges, but he cooperated. That seemed to work in his favor. He received probation like the others. As for me, I inherited the house, the entire property, and all the assets. It was not excessively lavish, certainly not billionaire level, but it was substantial enough to clarify why they had pretended for so long. I did not throw them out. The courts did. They left quietly, without apologies or any eye contact. My mother left a note on the kitchen counter. It read, "You were always good at taking what you did not earn." I burned it in the sink. On the first night I stayed there alone, just visiting before returning to London. I sat in Grandpa's chair. I opened a bottle of wine and rested my feet on the table. The place was peaceful and still carried the scent of wood polish. I did not feel victorious, justified, or even angry anymore. I felt dismissed. And for once in my life, I did not feel like an outsider. I have not spoken to my parents or my sister since, not even a text. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. Other times I question if I did not go far enough. Let me know your thoughts. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and tap the bell.